public services e-portal where 20 public services is available. We also launched more than 400 informational kiosks around the country to present public services to our people.
Также хотелось вас проинформировать, всех участников форума, что правительство создана отдельная рабочая группа по разработке плана действий в рамках ОГП, куда вошли представители гражданского общества. И сейчас идет общественное обсуждение плана действий. Мы надеемся закончить эту разработку до 31 августа 2018 года. Мы настроены на эффективную работу, поддерживаем все намерения в рамках ОГП, и правительство благодарит за оказанное нам доверие.
And as a last note, I'd like to inform you that the Kyrgyz government has already started its work on the plan of actions in the framework of OGP, and we have formed a working group and started to work, and we are planning to finish this work before the deadline of 23rd of August. And very much committed to this job, and we are very thankful for your trust, and thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Minister Sultan Bekova, and it's good to see that the Kyrgyz Republic will make open government a priority, and it's good that the commitment is there already on the table. Now, Afghanistan has joined the OGP since last year, and we would now like to ask our friend from Afghanistan, the second Vice President, Danesh, tell us a little bit. I know that Afghanistan has adopted and developed a national action plan, of which the open government is very much a part of it. Could you tell us how will open government help rebuild the state of Afghanistan and secure the future democracy of the country?
Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim. جلالت معاب وزیر انکشاف و پلانگذاری ملی اندونزیا، جلالت معابان وزرای کشورهای دوست، نمایندگان محترم نهادهای مدنی، حضار گرامی، خانم ها و آقایان، السلام علیکم و رحمت الله و برکاته.
In the name of God, the most compassionate, the most merciful, Your Excellency, Minister of Natural Development and Planning of Indonesia, honorable ministers of friendly countries, representatives of civil society organization, distinguished guests, ladies and gentlemen, hello to everybody.
اجازه دید به نمایندگی از دولت جمهوری اسلامی افغانستان از مهمان نوازی گرم کشور دوست جمهوری اندونزیا و همکاران مشارکت دولتداری باز سپاس عمیق خود را ابراز کنیم.
Please allow me to express my appreciation and gratitude on behalf of the Islamic Republic of Afghanistan to the leadership and people of Indonesia and colleagues at the Open Government Partnership for their warm hospitality.
افغانستان با کشور دوست و برادر اندونزیا با عنوان یکی از بزرگترین کشورهای اسلامی از زمان استقلال این کشور تا کنون رابطه دیرینه دوستی، احترام و همکاری همه‌جانبه دارد و این روابط هر روز رو به گسترش است.
Since the independence of Indonesia, Afghanistan has had long-lasting friendship, respect, and cooperation with the broader country of Indonesia as one of the greatest Islamic countries, and these ties are expanding day by day.
بسیار جای مسرت است که امروز در این مجمع بزرگ فرصت یافتیم که از آرزوهای دیرینه مردم خود با شما سخن بگوییم. ما مطمئن هستیم که تلاش‌های امروزی ما باعث اصلاحات گسترده در عرصه دولتداری خواهد شد.
It is a great privilege speaking about the hopes of our people in this meeting. I am confident that our efforts today will lead to inclusive reforms in public governance, and I hope we can put in place an outstanding legacy for future generations.
همونطوری که گفته شد، افغانستان از دسامبر 2016 عضویت مشارکت دولتداری باز را پیدا کرد و به تعقیب او ما به منظور شفافیت، حسابدهی و و تأمین مشارکت عامه برنامه عمل ملی افغانستان را طرح و آماده تطبیق ساختیم.
With this understanding, the Islamic Republic of Afghanistan obtained a membership of the Open Government Partnership, meeting 88% of the OGP eligibility criteria. Afterwards, in order to increase transparency, accountability, and public participation in national policy making, the Afghan government developed its first national action plan in partnership with civil society organizations, private sector, and academia, which is ready for implementation.
با تطبیق برنامه ما انتظار داریم اصلاحات لازم یعنی شفافیت و حسابدهی در اجراعات دولت ما ارتقا پیدا کنه و شهروندان کشور ما در طرح و تطبیق برنامه انکشافی سهیم شوند.
The commitment included in Afghanistan's first national action plan provides the ground for proper implementation of the constitution of the country and helps institutionalize our constitutional values including democracy, rule of law, and social justice.
از سوی دیگر قانون اساسی ما دولت افغانستان را مکلف ساخته به ایجاد یک جامعه مرفه و مترقی بر اساس دموکراسی، حقوق بشر، عدالت اجتماعی، انکشاف متوازن و ایجاد اداره سالم که شفافیت و حسابدهی یک رکن اصلی اداره است.
Democracy, rule of law, and respect to human rights is founding principles for our constitution, and our government is very committed to provide for all of these important matters.
ما امیدواریم با تطبیق برنامه ملی عمل زمینه فراهم شود برای تطبیق دموکراسی، حاکمیت قانون و عدالت و شفافیت در افغانستان.
And I hope that with implementation of these national action plan, all the above mentioned important issues are properly dealt with.
دو سه نکته بسیار کوتاه را از برنامه ملی به عنوان مثال یادآوری میکنیم.
I want to offer some examples of the important effects and outcomes of the implementation of our national action plan.
نکته اول تأمین مشارکت نهادهای مدنی در پروسه های بررسی سکتور عامه است که واقعا میزان شفافیت را در اجراعات تفتیش افزایش می‌دهد و زمینه دسترسی شهروندان به اطلاعات بیشتر را فراهم می‌سازد.
One, participation of civil society organizations in the audit process of public sector will increase the transparency in the functions of the High Office of Audit and increases the citizens' access to information included in our commitments in ensuring the participation of civil society organizations in the legislation making the process better. With this commitment implemented, the legislation-making process will be more inclusive, thereby allowing for responsive legislations to emerge. Also, our government's first commitment in support of freedom of speech, free activities of private media and social networks, and approval of the law on the right to access to information will not only help institutionalization of democracy, but also enhances the accountability mechanisms and help with fighting corruption.
ما تعهد جدی و حمایت قاطع داریم از آزادی بیان، فعالیت آزاد رسانه‌های خصوصی و همچنین شبکه‌های اجتماعی و همچنین تصویب قانون حق دسترسی به اطلاعات که نه تنها دموکراسی را در کشور ما نهادینه نمی‌سازد بلکه زمینه مشارکت عامه را به منظور تأمین شفافیت، حسابدهی و همچنین مبارزه با فساد اداری تقویت می‌کند.
As I mentioned, all of these implementation that are included in our national action plan will help us to achieve all these important concepts and objectives that our government has set for the country.
نقطه دوم در برنامه شمولیت نمایندگان جامعه مدنی و نهادهای خصوصی در اسناد تقنینی کشور است که با اجرای شدن این تعهد روند قانونگذاری در افغانستان نسبت به هر زمان دیگر این فرصت را فراهم می‌سازد که ما قوانین شفاف و پاسخگو تصویب کنیم و این خود به خود باعث میشه که حسابدهی در تمام سطوح دولت ارتقا پیدا کنه.
Second, another commitment in our national action plan is to include civil society organizations in the process of finalization of legal documents. With implementation of such commitment, the process of legislation in Afghanistan becomes more inclusive than ever and offers opportunities for responsive legislation and will provide for better accountability in all levels of government.
نکته سوم مشارکت یا همکاری مشترک نیروهای امنیتی افغانستان و شهروندان کشور است. توسعه شوراهای مشترک مردم و پلیس در ولایات یکی دیگر از تعهدات مندرج برنامه عمل ملی ماست که این وضعیت زمینه را برای شهروندان ما میسر می‌سازد تا چالش‌های امنیتی محلاتشان را شناسایی کنند و برای رفع آن با پلیس ملی کشور همکاری کنند و مهمتر از همه ای که این شوراها نقش سازنده در ارتقای حسابدهی و پاسخگویی در اجرات پلیس ملی کشور ایفا خواهد کرد.
And thirdly, security challenges are crucial obstacles for socio-economic development. To overcome security challenges, the government, in particular the security and law enforcement sector, must establish effective partnership with Afghan citizens. The expansion of public police partnership councils at the provinces of the country and our commitment in our first National Action Plan will allow people to identify security challenges at their provinces and work together with security and law enforcement sector to overcome them. These councils will play a constructive role in promotion of accountability in the activities of our national police in the country.
نکته مهم قابل یادآوری است که افغانستان در گذشته‌های تاریخ خود از جنگ و منازعه و تبعیض و استبداد رنج فراوان برده است، ولی اکنون از یک دموکراسی جوان و نوپا بهره‌مند است. ما بعد از سقوط طالبان در سال 2001 بعد از تصویب مترقی‌ترین و دموکراتیک‌ترین قانون اساسی در سطح منطقه تا کنون 3 بار انتخابات ریاست جمهوری و 2 بار انتخابات پارلمانی را تجربه کرده ایم و همچنین شوراهای ولایتی و شوراهای انکشافی در سطح قریه ها را فعال ساخته ایم و در کنار آن همکنون 10 حزب سیاسی و هزاران سازمان اجتماعی و مدنی و صدها رسانه آزاد چاپی، تصویری و صوتی به صورت آزاد و قانونمند فعالیت می‌کنند و از یک جامعه مدنی بسیار فعال و توانمند برخورداریم که همه اینها زمینه بسیار خوبی را برای دولتداری باز در کشور ما فراهم ساخته است.
The other important point to mention is that Afghanistan has suffered a great deal from wars, conflicts, discrimination, and oppression, but now enjoys a young democracy. After the collapse of Taliban regime in 2001, after adoption of the most progressive constitution in the region, we have experienced 3 presidential elections and 2 parliamentary elections, besides other provincial councils and district and village development councils elections. Furthermore, we have tens of political parties and thousands of social and civil organizations, hundreds of printed and electronic media outlets operating freely and legally, and we enjoy having a very active and strong civil society. All these have provided us with good context for open government.
اما با تطبیق تعهدات برنامه عمل ملی ما امیدوار هستیم درهای دولت بر روی شهروندان کشور بیش از پیش باز شود، یعنی افغانستان از حکومتگرایی به حکومتداری وارد شود و این خود به خود موجب میشه برای بهبود وضعیت امنیتی، عرضه خدمات عامه و مدیریت مشارکتی دولت و سوق افغانستان به سوی رفاه و ترقی.
With that said, I am confident with implementation of our reform commitments, the doors of our government will become more open and the people of Afghanistan will witness a positive change in governance. This will lead to enhanced security, sound public service delivery, participatory state governance, and ultimately welfare for the country.
با توجه به که وقت کم است از ارائه همکاری‌های تکنیکی واحد حمایوی مشارکت دولتداری باز تشکر و قدردانی میکنیم و آرزو داریم که کارکردهای امروز همه ما و شما اثرات مثبت در زندگی روزمره شهروندان کشور ما به جا بگذارد.
In closing, I would like to thank the OGP Support Unit for their technical contribution in development of Afghanistan's first National Action Plan, as well as colleagues who put immense efforts in organizing today's event. I sincerely hope our work today will leave a positive impact on daily lives of the citizens around the globe.
تشکر مجدد از توجه شما. السلام علیکم و رحمت
Thank
الله
you
و
for your
برکاته.
attention.
Thank you very much, Vice President Danesh, and of course we wish Afghanistan every success in conducting the reforms. Now let's turn to what's happening here in Indonesia. When it comes to open government, role of the civil society is of course particularly NGOs, very, very important. And we have Ilham Sairang from Open Contracting Indonesia. Ilham, what's your perspective? How are we doing it in Indonesia? Do you see government, particularly local governments, streamlining open government into their policies? And also we are committed to SDGs, Sustainable Development Goals. Do you see the link? Because all of these is very much interlinked, and this is something that Indonesia has committed to achieve.
Thank you. Okay.
Yes, is that working?
Thank you, Desi, and good morning, everyone. A lot of going on in Indonesia, of course, yeah. But one thing that we need to celebrate, or we need to thank, that the political transitions in the country is quite good and great so far. So this is a very great modalities for all Indonesian people, and including the government as well as the civil society, to work hand in hand in order to achieve our sustainable development goals, as well as the Nawacita was so-called in Indonesia as our ideas, our objectives as a nation. I think the first one, we need to both the OGP and the SDGs we see from the perspective of civil society, and when we talk with the government and also business sector, all agree to see the SDGs as the movement. So we see the SDGs as the movement that lead us to changes in what happened on the ground to improve the prosperity of people. So when we see this as a movement, and then nothing can hold us back to create a collaboration. So the co-creation spirit in the OGP pretty much get into a great positions in here in the SDGs. So the first thing is to see SDGs as a movement, of course. And the second, to aim for changes. And when we already set our goal through the SDGs, and then maybe in some more formulations into the national SDGs, national goals, and then how we achieve that, and enter the OGP as a platform, as vehicle, to get all these people, all these strong actors like a civil society, a subnational government. We have a lot of here subnational government as well, and ministries and business sector, hand in hand to achieve the goals. And what happened here? I remember last year, we set our commitment, not only by the government, but also the business sector as well as the civil society, to see that OGP can contribute directly into some following ideas. The first one, to provide a strong and transformational action plans. Why not? Why not to put, for example, one action plan that can boost the OGP, like providing a routine dialogue or a dialogue in property alleviations, like we already, I can recall, like in Bojonegoro, for example. Yeah. And the second is to provide a room for dialogue, I remember that last year, that not only that the ideas of doing these collaborations come into mind, but also the formulation and how to tackle the SDGs through several methods, also being co-created by the civil society and government and the private sectors. But of course, there are also challenges there in Indonesia. The first one, we need to have some sort of policy or regulations to back up this strong partnership between all actors. And then we just get the presidential regulations on that around 7 or 6 months ago. But then the next challenge is how to create the team of coordinations in order to accelerate the strategic formulations of
That's
the
a
SDGs.
collaboration.
Yeah, through the collaborations. So in my view, I'm optimistic in how this OGP can contribute to SDGs through the co-creation platform and the co-creation process. But don't forget that the leaders inside this platform should be also transformational. Why? Because when we are get together, sometimes we are contractual. Sometimes we are only see ourselves that, okay, what in it for me, what in it for you, and then we agree on that. But the most important is we share a commonality, common goal, and not only how to achieve there, but where to go. And I think this is the Indonesian government as well as the civil society and the business sector already laid a good foundations through the presidential regulations that accommodate those three actors in one platform. But not forget, the next step is the action plan as well as the strategy. But those action plan and strategy will not be transformational unless also the coordination team, both national and subnational level, also being created and transformational as well. And we have a lot of examples here from Pangkep, Bojonegoro, as well as in Nusa Tenggara.
Okay,
Yes.
thank you very much, Ilham, and thank you also for pointing out that the important thing about open governments is, at the end of the day, the regulations that go with it, of course, the collaboration and having everybody on the same table with the same vision. And of course, this is the homework for the government in this instance. Commitment is all very good, but at the end, it's all about implementation. But more importantly is the effect. For example, Indonesia, it's very decentralized. We've seen some good examples. Minister Bambang, do you see that the local governments, I know we've mentioned Bojonegoro as being one of the more successful examples, but is this something that we see across the board here in Indonesia? And the other thing is there really an economic benefit to open government? Is there really poverty reduction going on when we implement open government?
Thank you, Desi. Excellency, Second Vice President of Afghanistan, Excellency Ministers, panelists, ladies and gentlemen. Let me touch base on first on the relevance between open government and the SDG, as already mentioned by Pak Ilham. Clearly, OGP is very much in line with the SDG. And in SDG, as we know, there is an emphasis on means of implementation. And clearly, OGP is a way, to implement these means of implementation, because we have to involve not only government, but more importantly, the non-government actors, including civil society, media, academician, and also the business sector. So it's clear OGP is in line, and quite interestingly, OGP was born before SDG. So everything is already in line, and it's good that when we try to implement SDG through presidential decree that Pak Ilham mentioned, we can adopt the OGP principles right away. But then in the SDG itself, as we know, one of the goals, I think is very much relevant to Indonesia, which is inequality. How to overcome inequality. And to overcome inequality, of course, government cannot do it alone, and especially central government will not be able to reduce inequality without good coordination and support from the local government. So in this case, I would like to turn into our decentralization. Of course, Indonesia has implemented decentralization since 2001, and this is not an easy decentralization. Currently, our central government needs to deal with almost 540 local governments. at provincial, district, as well as municipality level. And even now, we have direct transfer from central government to the village level or rural transfer. So of course, it becomes more complicated than we expected. But then, open government actually will have the benefit. I mean, to answer Desi's question, when it comes to the benefit, of course, it will be up to the Bupati, it will be up to the governor, it will be up to the mayors, as well as the head of the village or Kepala Desa. And in this case, if possible, I would like to touch a little bit on the case of Bojonegoro. And let's first give the appreciation to the Bupati of Bojonegoro, Pak Yoto. Bojonegoro, I mean, for information, if in case you don't know, they won the Open Government Awards during the last Open Government Summit in Paris. And of course, it becomes one of our pride in terms of implementation of open government. Let me do the analysis a little bit on this Bojonegoro case. Maybe some of you didn't realize the biggest oil producing district in Indonesia now is no longer in Sumatra or in Riau. It is in Java, especially in the district of Bojonegoro, because government or the oil companies found, I think, a quite big reserve on oil, and now they are starting to, produce the oil from the area. And of course, we know very well the development definition of natural resource curse. Usually, countries or districts or any regions that suddenly has big natural resources production didn't go well into a prosperous region. Instead, they become, very much loose in terms of spending. Suddenly they become rich and they didn't spend the money wisely. But what Pak Yoto did in Bojonegoro, I think is very much strategic, because he thought not only for Bojonegoro now. Of course, Pak Yoto can simply just, do the free spending, because he got a lot of transfer now from the natural resources revenue sharing. But instead, he promoted the open government principle. Why? Because he pursues for sustainability. He knows that this oil producing status will end someday. The oil will not be renewable. So it will be the end. Someday it will be the end. And what they did is basically to promote open government, so everybody feels that we own this district, we own the economy, and put Bojonegoro on their own rather than relying 100% on oil and gas production. So to answer the question, is there any economic benefit? Yes, certainly. But of course, the Bupati, the governor, the mayor needs to know, needs to understand what will be the benefit and how to turn this kind of natural resource curse into something that's sustainable. And we hope if this model in Bojonegoro works, we can apply to other districts in Indonesia that also rich in natural resources. Not only oil, but also mining, mining including coal as well as copper, gold, and everything. So I think this is a good case, and certainly open government is very much in line with SDG and very much in line with our national development planning strategy. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you, Mr. Bambang. And so, yes, there is economic benefit to open government, and we hope that in Indonesia there are more visionary leaders, such as from Bojonegoro, that actually practice open government, because then that would reduce inequality and increase economic prosperity for Indonesia. Now, a good partner to the government, ideally, is the private sector, but often there is sort of a gap in how they see things. Let's turn now to the perspective from the member of the private sector, Pak Junardi. How relevant, how important does the private sector community see open government, and how can the private sector, engage more with the government as well as other stakeholders such as the civil society?
Thank you, Desi. And
Excellencies, Ambassador, Ministers, distinguished guests, ladies and gentlemen. Uh, well, directly to answer this question, certainly from the private sector, from the business point of view, this open government very important for all of us. In fact, that in many occasions, that also including in this forum now, that we are invited by the government. Ilham is here representing the civil societies, and I'm here actually representing both the business, because I'm coming from business. Also, I'm also representing the Global Compact, which is also civil society, but business-led. So we see this is a kind of already opportunities for getting together to open the dialogues, communicate, and so forth. So open government, to me, is also basically the facilities to be able to get the public to access the data and information, okay, on any aspects in terms of the economy, the social, the research, and so forth. And I think, in my opinion, Indonesia now is already moving, quite progressing since several years lately for this one too. Okay. I would like also to point out that Bojonegoro is a good example here. In Indonesia, we time to time talking about the gap between the western part of Indonesia and the eastern part of Indonesia. Okay? And typically when we are talking about that, we are talking about the economic gaps. But I think it's also the information gap is another important one. So there is also information gap. And I think now with all of these technologies, with all of this infrastructure that has been being built now, I think we are now moving a long way in order to minimize that gaps. So Indonesia become, information become coming to every places. In fact, from the business point of view, several years back, okay, if I would like to mention this time again, we have been proposing to the government to consider that the time zone of Indonesia becoming only one time zone. Okay, and having one time zone, actually a lot of benefits from the business point of view, investment point of view, and in fact then positioning Indonesia stronger in the region, rather than having now different timing, like we are different in Singapore. Bali is the same with Singapore, and Singapore become the main hub of this stock exchange and so forth, and up to the Hong Kong and Tokyo and so forth. So we have been proposing to have, we are doing only one time zone for Indonesia, and I think some other countries has been doing that way, because the time zone is not only from the geography point of view, but time zone also considered from the political point of view, economic point of view, becomes a strategic point also. Now I would like to also, mention just 5 points very quickly, coming from the business first. The business can be part of the solution to the challenges of the globalization. So we started with this like 2 years, year 2000, 2 decades ago, when Kofi Annan mentioned that let's give the human face to the global market. And that is actually the starting of the Global Compact. And now we have a Global Compact operating in 170 countries with 14,000 members coming from the private sector, either business and civil society, and also the universities and so forth. Number 2 is that sustainability is the business of business. Sustainability is not something that, many times we are talking now, CSR. It is really the business of the business. I think we mentioned, Pak Bambang mentioned the correlation closely between the open government and SDGs. I would like to refer also here, open government is closely related to SDG 16 and 17. And we are talking about 3 Ps in the past, people, planet, and profit. Now we are talking 5 Ps. People, planet, and profit become prosperity, means not us, not me, but us together. Profitability now becomes sustainability, and also another thing is a peace and partnerships. And the peace and partnerships is the one very closely to this access of the information to the societies, so that we can have communications both from the government and the private sector. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Junardi. And of course, here in Indonesia, we have the IGCN mentioned by Pak Junardi, which is a local network of the UN Global Compact in Indonesia, and it's very important in order to create better collaboration between the private sector and the government and the civil society. So we've thought, when you talk about open government partnership, of course, it's important to align with government policies and national action plans, as well as the SDGs. And here, this is where I think our multilateral partnership is also important. The ADB has been a multilateral supporter of the Open Government Partnership since 2014. So let's turn to you, Gambhir. How can the ADB, as our partner, make sure that the programs are aligned with OGP, with open government, with sustainable development goals, and also with national action plans, particularly for Indonesia?
Sorry about that. That's just to keep you awake. Thank you, Daisy. Well, one of the things that we've done at the Asian Development Bank is to see how we can actually work with our member countries with respect to our own governance policy. And the policy actually focuses a lot on issues of transparency, accountability, and so on. And you should keep in mind this notion of what we call information asymmetry, where you have governments, central governments and local governments that have the information, and you have citizens that do not have access to it. And when that mismatch occurs is when you really do not have the conditions for good governance. So increasingly, we've come to realize that the focus needs to be on service delivery improvements. It needs to be on local governments, and how it is that we can actually encourage civil society, citizens, and others to get the information that's needed. Now, there are about 10 countries that are members of ADB that have altogether signed up to the OGP. And what we're trying to do is to see the extent to which we can have them share knowledge and experiences, because that's really very relevant. There are countries that are eager to join the OGP, Timor-Leste, Nepal, and so on. And then they're eager to know what is it that countries like Indonesia, Sri Lanka, Armenia can learn, can offer them the knowledge and the experiences to do better. Now, on our own, of course, we do need to do things that are very relevant at the central and macro level. So we've, for example, reformed our procurement processes, where we try to make sure that there are civil society and there are other organizations that can actually help monitor how the work gets done on the ground. It's easier said than done, of course, but this is something that really needs to be emphasized even more. The knowledge sharing is important because of the two events that we've had so far since we joined as a partner organization, we've really learned a lot about what is it that, for example, Indonesia can offer others about how things get done on the ground. Because where the rubber hits the road, where citizens actually get impacted by the policies of the government, they do need to have a way of actually thinking about how they can interact. And ADB has provided the right forum for them to do this thing. We've got technical assistance that we've provided, for example, in Armenia, where we've worked with the civil societies for them to monitor the work that's being done in school reconstruction, so that we can make sure that the investment that is made is actually being done in the right manner. In Indonesia itself, we've got some programs where in Banda Aceh, for example, we're helping the local governments actually make data available so that citizens can actually get better services. They can see what's actually being done. With respect to the question that you had about how is it that ADB can do, and organizations like ADB can do better, probably what comes to my mind the most is that all too often we have in governments one or two champions that actually push this through. And that's good. But what we really need to do is to expand that horizon, is to actually get many more of them to come and think about issues of open data, open government. So engaging with national levels and at the macro level, government officials and government agencies to actually start thinking about this on a day-to-day basis is very important. It's not just something that we do on the sidelines, oh, by the way, this is good, so let's do this. It's something that we should be doing as part of our DNA. And it's in that kind of an engagement with central governments where I see organizations like the ADB coming in handy, where we can engage with the ministries of finance, with Bapinas, with the others, on a very regular basis to show that there is actually advantage to doing this on a more sustained manner. The other thing that we should also be doing is to actually work with our colleagues in our end. We have offices in about 38, 39 countries. We can actually work with our local offices to help them engage with civil society, to help them monitor the work that's being done. It's okay to have a national action plan, but it's quite another to actually make sure that you're implementing it and monitoring it and providing the support. And the final thing that we really need to do is to quote Sanjay Pradhan, who, as you know, has been with OGP. He's leading it. He was in ADB about a year or so ago, and he was actually asked this question, what is it that ADB can do better? And what he did say was, we need to mainstream. This should be part of our DNA. We should be doing this on a regular basis. And so he said, ADB should be making this something that we do on a very regular basis, make it, mainstream it in our processes, in the way we do things. And I think that's where we can see value added. But we should certainly be providing more technical assistance as well, wherever it's needed to our member countries.
Thank you very much. And once again, thank you for pointing out that implementation is basically very important in order to get results. Now, we mentioned about the importance of civil society. Obviously, what we've seen now across the world is sort of increasing encroachment and reduction towards civic space. Now, our OGP lead civil society co-chair is Mokalani Dimba. Mokalani, a very warm welcome to you. A South African activist with extensive experience in freedom of information and whistleblower protection laws. And as I mentioned, we're seeing increasing sort of encroachment towards civic space, and especially with the also technology and social media, it doesn't make it any easier for the people in civil society. Well, how can you convince governments that it is a good idea to invest more in open government, to get more participation from the people as a whole?
I'm not sure. Yeah, it's on now. Thank you very much, Desi, for that introduction and for the question. I think it will be stating the obvious to say that OGP does not operate in a vacuum. The success of the OGP will always rest on the operating environment and the factors within that operating environment. Sometimes you find instances where the operating environment of the OGP is quite enabling, is quite positive for fairly exciting innovations to take place. And I think the establishment of the OGP in 2011 was one such moment where there was a coming together of governments and civil society and creating this amazing new platform for inclusive governance. However, you also find instances where the environment changes for the worst. In the Civicus report of 2017, they make reference to what they call a global civic space emergency, noting the rise in extremism, noting the rise in populism that has created a decline in public trust, which has also then led to even more shrinking of civic space. Let's just look at the figures. Civicus is telling us that of the 75 OGP participating countries, 5 of those countries have repressed environment for the operation or the workings of civil society. When we talk about repressed environment, we're talking about instances where there is no longer freedom of expression, no longer freedom of association. NGO activists are victimized, some are imprisoned, and NGOs are actually closed down. So 5 of OGP countries are facing those challenges right now. Civicus also says to us, of the 75, 17 have obstructed civic space. That is to say, instances where legal mechanisms or policies have been put in place to limit the operations of NGOs. they also tell us that of the 75 countries, 31 have narrowed civic space. That is to say, you have instances where public statements are being made by leaders that seek to suggest that NGOs are either agents or they are not loyal or they are anti-government. So you have those instances that are currently taking place, even within us as the family. It is a very difficult issue to have to tackle because the credibility and the reputation of OGP rests on this golden principle of a true partnership between government and civil society. But I need to also emphasize that it's not just about civil society. When we talk about civic space, it's not about civil society alone. It is about the general environment that exists in each country that enables innovation, that enables creative competition with ideas, that enables a partnership between the citizens as recipients of public services and governments as the providers of public services. You need that environment to be able to effectively deliver on the expectations that citizens have of their government. So it is a challenge for all of us within OGP to ensure that we walk the talk. A lot of our countries, actually all OGP countries, when they join OGP, they sign into the OGP declaration that upholds these values of collective ownership, of co-creation, of partnership between government and the people. And so we need to hold each other accountable whenever some of us fall by the wayside or falter, and actually support each other in ensuring that we remain true to the values and the principles of the OGP. Thank you so much.
Okay, so thanks, Mukalani. Yes, I agree with you. I think the onus is on each and every one of us to push for open government, because without the right environment, it's very challenging. It's very difficult to implement. And we've seen from our discussion this morning that open government is important if we want to create better trust in society, trust towards institutions, trust towards the government, and trust amongst ourselves as members of society. Open government can create inclusiveness. It can also has benefit to reduce poverty, to reduce inequality, to increase economic benefit, and also to create a democratic and a prosperous society in general. Now, I would like to, Pak Bambang, as you are the host, perhaps just a final wrap up to what we've heard this morning. How we talk about, Mukalani mentioned about innovation, but we also talk about the need for collaboration. What would you like to see? What sort of action plan, collective action plan, particularly between countries, amongst our friends, in order to actually implement open government better in the future?
Yeah. Of course, every government in the world would like to do better for the people. And by having this forum, at least first we can share the best practices from around the region, in this case Asia Pacific, and we hope that the similarity among the countries in the Asia Pacific will benefit all the participants, simply because sometimes if we learn from very advanced country, let's say Indonesia, learn the best practices directly from the US or from the Western Europe, at the end of the day, we might conclude that it might not be possible or it is hard to be implemented. But when we look at the experience from countries around the region, countries with almost similar economic development states, I believe it will be more effective in terms of disseminating the best practices. The other thing, of course, countries that already already member of the OGP for quite some time, including Indonesia as one of the founding countries, we are ready to offer our support, to offer our assistance through our South-South cooperation, South-South triangular cooperation, in terms of disseminating or trying to help other countries, especially new members of OGP, in trying to implement the best practices in their respective countries. I think hopefully that will be the ultimate result of this forum.
Thank you very much. Big hands, everybody, for our panelists. Thank you very much, ministers, vice presidents. And that's the end of our plenary session this morning, and I would like to return the program to our organizer.
Thank you. We kindly ask His Excellency Muhammad Sarwadane, Second Vice President of Afghanistan, to leave the stage, since His Excellency has another important agenda to attend. Thank you to all the speakers and moderator. For all the speakers and moderator, please remain on the stage because the next agenda is photo session, and we would like to ask you to take part in our photo session. And also, we cordially invite on the stage ministers and deputy ministers, leaders of accountability institution, heads of subnational governments, ambassadors, and members of the OGP Steering Committee, OGP Envoys, and Deputy CEO. And for all distinguished guests, participants, ladies and gentlemen, that it's not join the photo session, we kindly please to enjoy our coffee break that is served at Voyer Flores room and also Voyer Timor room. And please be informed that the roundtable session will begin after the coffee break at 11 o'clock. And I will inform you that there will be 3 sessions. The first one is ministerial roundtable, which is located at Sumba AB room in level 3. And the second session is accountability institution at Sumba C room in level 3. And National Leaders Roundtable, which is located at Singosari room in level 2 near the pool. Once again, I will inform for all the participants, speakers, ladies and gentlemen, there will be 3 sessions. The first session is about ministerial roundtable, which is located at Sumba AB room in level 3. The second one is accountability institution at Sumba C room in level 3. And the last one is Sub-National Leaders Roundtable at Singosari room in level 1 near the pool.
Tahan belum Pak, tahan Pak, tahan.
Thank you, and we request all other guests to please remain seated. And we please again to all the participants to enjoy the coffee break that serve at the Voyer Flores room and also Voyer Timor room. And once again, we inform for all these participants that already take to the session. There will be 3 sessions. The first one is ministerial roundtable, which is located at Sumba AB room in level 3. Second, accountability institution, which is located at Sumba C room in level 3. And also Sub-National Leaders Roundtable at Singosari room in level 1 near the pool. Our ushers will escort you to the location of each room. For all distinguished guests, participants, ladies and gentlemen, we kindly to check the things that you bring because we will set up this room. Once again, we remind you, please kindly don't forget to bring all the things that you bring because this room will be set up. Bapak Ibu hadirin yang kami hormati, kami ingatkan untuk membawa barang-barang berharga bawaan Bapak Ibu, karena kita akan men-setting ruangan ini, dan kami silakan kepada Bapak Ibu untuk dapat menikmati coffee break yang telah kami sediakan di Flores Room dan juga Timor Room. Once again, I will give you an information for the leaders roundtable session that it is divided into 3 sessions. For the ministerial roundtable session, which is located at Sumba AB room in level 3. Accountability institution, which is located at Sumba C room in level 3. And the last one is Subnational Leaders Roundtable, which is located at Singosari room in level 1 near the pool. And our usher will escort you to the location of each room. Thank you. Sekali lagi kami informasikan dan ingatkan kepada Bapak Ibu hadirin untuk tidak meninggalkan barang-barang berharga bawaan Bapak Ibu di ruangan ini karena kita akan men-setting ruangan ini kembali. Jadi kami mohon kepada Bapak Ibu untuk membawa barang-barang berharga bawaan Bapak Ibu. And once again, we inform you for the Leaders Roundtable session that there will be 3 sessions. The first one is Ministerial Roundtable, which is located at Sumba AB room in level 3. Accountability Institution, which is located at Sumba C room in level 3. And also the last is Subnational Leaders Roundtable, which is located at Singosari room in level 1 near the pool. Once again, we will inform you that the roundtable session will begin after the coffee break at 11 o'clock. And for the place of the leader roundtable session, which is divided into 3 sessions, for the ministerial roundtable is located at Sumba AB room in level 3. Accountability Institution is located at Sumba C room in level 3. And the last one is Subnational Leaders Roundtable is located at Singosari room in level 1 near the pool.